What's going on, everybody? It's your boy C-Zar, and we are talking about Bitcoin today. The purpose of this video is to discuss the long-term prospects of Bitcoin, where it's going to go by the end of this cycle. What is a Bitcoin bull cycle? All that stuff, right? It's a very simple concept. It's just if you're new to crypto, you might not know what you hear cycle, but you don't know what it is. Hopefully you'll have a better understanding of it by the end of this video, and even an understanding enough to where you can do your own analysis, right? We're going to do long-term stuff. This is very simple stuff that we're going to do, but it's going to take some time. So buckle up, hit the like button, subscribe if that sounds good to you. The purpose of this video is to try and find where the all-time high by the end of the cycle will be. I believe to know. I know what my expectation will be because I've had the same expectation for years now. But for anybody who's interested or new, or maybe you just want a refresher on why I think these things, this video is for you. So first and foremost, I think if we're talking about the bull cycle, it's important to identify what a bull cycle is, right? Some people wonder, this is a bull cycle. This is a bear cycle. That was a bull cycle there. That was a bear cycle. Bull cycle, bear cycle, bull cycle, bear cycle, bull cycle, right? It's very clear we're in a bull cycle right now. Now that we've identified that, we can see we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bull cycles. We're in the middle of the 5th bull cycle, okay? Historically speaking, as time goes on, as the cycles progress through and we get more cycles, that was a 5,202,000% growth on Bitcoin the first cycle, which is crazy, right? Absolutely insane. Low to high here, that was 62,000. That's still insane, but insanely lesser, right? Low to high here, that wasn't the low, by the way, but low to high here, 12,000. It's a lot less than 62,000, but still a lot of growth. Low to high here, last cycle, that was only a 1,900%, the first time that we were under 10,000% in all Bitcoin's existence. So historically speaking, or from this metric alone, a lot of people have theorized that this bull cycle will be lesser than a 2,000% growth. Since 2022, I've theorized that that won't be true. I've actually theorized, I've had a long-going theory, and we'll get into why I believe that this cycle will be the first and maybe one of the few. I don't think this is going to be a common thing, right? We're not starting a new trend here, but one of the few cycles where we do see a larger cycle in percentage growth in terms of low to high than we did the prior cycle. And I think a lot of people will be thrown off by that. From a relative low there to a relative high, we're already at, that wasn't the relative low, was it? We're already at about 600%. And in the course of action that we've seen with Bitcoin on these bull cycles, there's, some people believe in the 5.3 theory. Clearly, we've disproven the 5.3 theory with this cycle, but the ratio of growth that we've seen already now is closer to our last cycle's overall growth than anything else we've seen, right? We're in a different kind of setup here. I don't believe in the 5.3 theory. If you actually apply the 5.3 theory to anything, if you actually do the math and you understand what I'm talking about with the 5.3 theory, you'll come up with different targets to a degree of like 8% difference, 10%, 15% differences at times, right? It's not pinpoint accurate, but it's pretty close. It was a pretty close thing, right? For a while there, for cycle after cycle, we had that going for us, but now that's not really a thing anymore, right? And 600% versus about 2,000%, we're getting there, right? 600, 1,200, 2,400, that's not even close to 5.3, right? We're more close to like 3 point something. Anyways, if you don't understand what I'm saying with the 5.3 theory stuff, just don't even worry about it. It's irrelevant at this point in time. All I'm saying is we have more to grow. And if I think that we're going to grow more than 2,000%, which I think we do, what would that be, right? 2,000% from the low to the high puts us above $300,000. Right, we're gonna get to how high I think we're gonna go, but I don't want to spoil that just yet. Okay, so just at least understand that from the current frame, I believe we're going to see a bigger market or a stronger cycle than the last cycle, and that would take us at least over $300,000. Okay, the reason why I think we're going to see a stronger cycle than the last cycle, the reason why, is that if we look here, we go to the DXY. This is the main reason. This is my main reason, but we'll go over it. We'll talk about some other stuff too. Okay, the main reason is last cycle. If we compare this to Bitcoin here, BTC USD on the all-time history index, right? New price scale right there. We'll put it in log. So the red line is Bitcoin. We'll change that. We'll make it orange so that it's easier on the eyes, and because Bitcoin is orange, right? So orange there. If you notice with the last bull cycle here was growing. Actually, let's start off before the last cycle. Let's actually get into the very first cycle, okay? The very first cycle happened right here at this low. Same thing with the DXY, right? They both formed a low at the relative areas and continue to grow together. Everybody thinks the DXY has to go down for Bitcoin to grow, but that's not the case. Sometimes they do grow in tandem. But when the DXY drops, Bitcoin grows at an even faster pace, right? And then the DXY finds its low, its true low, starts to recover from there. That's when the bear market starts for Bitcoin. Here, you're in your next bull market right here. The DXY is not expanding. It's in a consolidation phase, right? Here, however, you are in an expansion phase, right? Right here, you're in an expansion phase. And this was in the heart of your bear market, okay? Here, you had an expansion phase down here, but then you began to consolidate all this time. And I'm gonna get rid of the Bitcoin chart a little bit here so that it's easier to see. Let's pull this up real quick. Pull that up like that, right? You can see you expanded from your low, expanded, and then the rest of this was consolidation. But you expanded here. Well, yeah, you moved up, but that's not this. This is an expansion phase. This is an expansion phase. This is just moving up, right? But this is an expansion phase. Do you see what I'm saying here? So, and that's important to note, okay? When it comes to the DXY, these expansion phases generally happen in the bear market for Bitcoin. I'm going to move Bitcoin down. I'm going to overlap it a little bit more so it's easier to see now. Okay, let's see. Something like this, right? The bear market happened during the expansion phase. Okay, then you consolidated. Bitcoin's running. It's having a bull market during a consolidation phase. Hell, it's having a bull market even during a period where we're correcting. The best part of the bull market, the blow off top finish, happened while the DXY crashed. But it went up alongside with the DXY for a time, right? It doesn't have to be like that, but whenever it starts to crash, that's when the finale happens. Okay, we've seen that happen both times here, right? Moving down here, finale. Bottoms out, expands, bear market. Bottoms out, doesn't expand, but it starts to grow, bear market, right? We get the crash here, and we have our run up. As we start to expand, we're not necessarily in the bull market at this point with Bitcoin. We're kind of moving sideways. But my theory is this: last cycle, because this was the last cycle for Bitcoin. Last cycle, I think this next move here, where we ran up to 69K and we saw a slightly higher high, we had that double top finish, I think we would have grown at a higher rate if the DXY wasn't in the middle of an expansion phase. This was the first time during a growth period for Bitcoin that the DXY was in an expansion phase, and that put a harsh stop on the growth of Bitcoin. I really do theorize that last cycle we were on track to see prices above 100K, maybe even multiple hundreds of thousands of dollars last cycle. But we didn't because the DXY was expanding. Now, why was the DXY expanding? Why was it in an expansive phase? And we'll get to the question. I'm sure some of you are wondering, what if it expands this cycle? It's not going to, but just anything can happen. But hold off on that real quick, okay? Last cycle, so the DXY, whenever this goes up, this implies that the US dollar is gaining strength versus a basket of world currencies, right? It's likely gaining strength. Well, last cycle, during this time, we had really high rates of inflation across the world, not just in the US dollar, but across the world. The DXY was gaining strength because it saw lesser inflation than its constituents in this basket of currencies that it's measured against. So while it saw high inflation, it was actually gaining dominance as a safe haven of a currency, of a Forex investment or a position to hold value, more so than other countries' Forex currencies were. So this happened. And I think because of the high inflation, Bitcoin was able to grow a little bit, right? Because high inflation equals devaluation of the dollar. This signals strength in the dollar versus other currencies, but still, even when it gains strength, it's still devaluing year after year because it's an inflationary coin or dollar currency. But getting the terminology confused there. But we didn't continue to grow. We were stopped dead in our tracks because, again, we were in the midst of this expansion phase. Now, the reason why I don't believe we're going to see an expansion phase hit us here while we're in our finale, the reason why I think we have nothing to worry about and we have more to go, first off, the dollar's tanking. We can see the DXY is tanking here, and that's not a bad thing. Right, we've got a little-known president, Donald Trump, in the office right now. Right, since January 20th. Right, he's been in office. And that's exactly when the DXY topped off. If you notice, this is his second term. We've had this president before. We've seen this all before, guys. We had a low here, a higher low back in the 2017 cycle whenever he was elected, right? Whenever he was president. I think it was, wasn't it 2017 January that he was elected. So it was same thing here. Look at this, right? Coincidentally, not coincidentally, this was the top of the DXY. This was the top of the DXY. And then we dropped to lower lows than what we had before. We're dropping to lower lows than we had before. And blow off top finish, right? I think we've just, the only piece that we've yet to add on here is the bullish side of Bitcoin and the rest of crypto. I think we're about to start seeing that though. I think we're in the in the lineup for that to start happening. But let's get back to the point of why I don't believe we're going to expand here. So if we take away, I'm going to take away the Bitcoin chart because I think it's irrelevant at this point. I don't think we need it. We look at the DXY chart on a monthly basis. You can see that from the low, or maybe not from the low, from the top of the expansion point, right? I wouldn't say this is the top of the move. We stopped the move right here and we started to consolidate, right? This was a higher price, but this was the end of the expansion right here, right? Since then, you consolidated, I would say, for 68 months. That was a 68-month phase of consolidation. Then you started to break out. Here, you expanded here, right? Expansion phase, started to consolidate. You still went higher, but you didn't break out of your overall consolidation phase. I think it's very obvious as to what the consolidation phase is, right? It's this whole thing here. That's your consolidation phase. Very obvious right there. And then you expanded 75 months later. 68 months, 75 months. That's pretty close. I mean, when we're talking about this kind of time frame, that's actually pretty close. Very similar timing when it comes to the amount of consolidation that we saw, right? Here, if we take that same kind of idea into mind, from the high, the end of the expansion here, to where we are now, we're at 31 months. Now, I don't know how long we're going to consolidate the DXY for, how long it's going to consolidate for. But 31 months compared to 75 compared to 68, I would say I don't even think we're halfway there, or maybe at best we're halfway there. So with that in mind, this is a monthly kind of aspect. I don't think by the end of this year, by the end of this cycle, I don't think that the DXY expanding is anything that we have to worry about, personally. That's not in my bingo card there, right? And I think if anything, we do have lower to go. Let's just see. I'm kind of curious. Yeah, I mean, we can drop a little bit lower. We could drop a lot lower. We don't have to respect this line, right? I mean, here you respected this line until you didn't. You broke through, right? So I'm just saying it doesn't. We don't have to respect this. It wouldn't even surprise me if we did break below this line. But I digress. Enough of the DXY, right? I just wanted to explain why I think we're going to see a larger cycle this cycle than last cycle, because this cycle what we don't have is the DXY expanding getting in our way. This cycle what we don't have is COVID. This cycle what we don't have is conflict. Well, I guess we have some conflicts in the world, but it seems like the conflicts are being hushed or taken care of. What's the word I'm looking for? They're being smoothed over a little bit. There's always going to be conflict in the world, right? But at least it doesn't seem like we're on the brink of World War III. At least if you're sane. There's a lot of people who really bite the media narrative, and the reason why the media wants to promote this idea like the world's on the brink of war, or that there's like all this potential for Russia to invade the EU or the United States to join up with Russia and China and leave NATO, and the World War III is going to start. The reason why the media paints this isn't because it's true. It's because it's engaging. It's because they need views to pay for their stuff. And fear it's the same thing, right? In crypto, you get the same thing, but on an opposite effect. People, they use excitement and euphoria to get views. Fear is the media's device to get views, right? And fear is I think it's a very powerful thing, but I don't think it's something that you should just look to adhere to strictly. And all I'm trying to say is I think we're in a better place in the world now than we have been in a while. And I think that we're in a better place in the world now, especially economically speaking, than we were last cycle at the end there, when the DXY, when the world was experiencing hyperinflation. We were coming off the ends of COVID. We had quantitative tightening going up, interest rates were going up, all these different things that just culminated in one for a stop in the growth of the cycle. We don't have that now. In fact, it's quite the opposite now. Interest rates are coming down. Inflation is at a good rate. Conflicts are being settled, right? Or at least they seemingly so. We'll see if that holds true or not. And I think that the sane people, the rational people out there, are understanding that we're not on the brink of World War III. Anything can happen. I'm not trying to call the future or jinx the future. I'm just saying it's less likely of a scenario now than it was back in these times. Anyways, I'm digressing from the topic here. Let's do some hard analysis real quick. Okay, so looking back in time, we take a high to a low. Our first bull cycle's high to the bear cycle low, the first bear cycle low. Our next bull cycle went to the 2272, just above the 2272, in fact. Okay, that's where it went. We take the next high, the next cycle high here, to the bear cycle low here, and we went all the way up to the 2272, just above the 2272. Again, twice in a row there. That's beautiful. I actually think that's what we're going to do this cycle, is go to the 2272. Last cycle, we had a lot of stuff that held us back, didn't we? We didn't see the 2272. This is what I mean whenever I said I think we were supposed to see a phenomenal finish but we didn't. We were held back for all the reasons that we've talked about and more, probably. 62,000, the golden ratio here, but you went just above it there, right? So the 2272 for 2 cycles, the 1618 last cycle. My theory is that this cycle we will see a stronger cycle than last cycle, and we will not stop at the 1618. So where are we going to stop? Well, we've already depicted or measured the fact that if we were to see a stronger cycle than last cycle, that we would see a over 2,000% growth, and that would put us over 300K. If we don't stop here, which I don't think that we will, because I think we'll go over 300K, well over 300K, where's the next target? It's the 2272. The long-awaited, long-promised 2272. And it's no more complicated than that. We oftentimes go just above the 2272. What is just above 462,000? What's a nice psychological level there that people might sell around? $500,000? $500,000? Is that a nice psychological level? It sounds nice to me. $500,000 right here, just above the 2272, as we do occasionally in the Bitcoin bull cycles. That makes sense to me. That's where I think we're going. And overall, from a percentage growth from the low to the high, that would give us about a 3,200% growth, which is still dramatically less than what we saw this cycle here. And if you think about it, right, from a low to a high, if we did grow to the 2272 of the last cycle's targets, right, from a high to a low here, from the bear market low to the 2272, if we went just above that, that would have been a 7,000% growth, which then this 3,200% growth would be lesser still than that, right? If things went quote unquote according to plan, which who knows how that's supposed to be. Maybe we don't go to the 2272 last cycle. Maybe we stop at 100K. That's still 3,400, 3,900, 4,000%, whatever. Still, this would be lesser than last cycle if we had a real chance last cycle and we didn't get stopped out by the DXY and a bunch of other reasons, right? So to me, it actually makes a lot of sense that we would stop at 500K, all right? Based off the fib alone. It's that simple. It's not complicated. I told you it's not complicated, right? All the other stuff is a little bit complicated, but not really. It just takes time to talk through. But now let's talk about timing, okay? Timing is a little bit harder to get. I would say the bull market started here, right? From a low to a high. That was an 18-month cycle. From a low here to a high there, that was a 24-month cycle. From a low here to a high there, nope, that's not it. Come on now. That was a 28-month cycle, getting longer, right? And then here, from a low, not to the high, although in that aspect, again, we got robbed. I think we should have continued onwards. Perhaps this cycle should be measured by the 35. It gets longer, it makes sense, but maybe not. Let's just put it here, 28. 2 cycles in a row at 28. 24, 28, 28, one was at 18. We have some kind of average there, right? That's not bad. I'm not going to do the actual math for the average, but it's something above 20, right? So far, our current bull cycle has a 26-month long-running period to its high. Okay, as of now, we're at 29 months. So we're at a longer bull cycle now than we've seen in history, whenever it comes from the low to the high. Okay, to be fair though, if we're looking at this for what it is, I would even say, if we're refining this a little bit, this bull cycle did start right here. It definitely did. This one actually didn't start right here. You found a low there, but your bull cycle, I would say, started here on this month. Because what, that's bull cycle start next month, only up 2%? I don't think so. That's your bull cycle start. So maybe that's a 26-month period. Your bull cycle started here? I don't think so. Your bull cycle really started, I would say, right here. 26 months, right? It's a little bit lesser of time. And did your bull cycle start here? No, I don't think so. I think it started more so here. So we're really at 27 months in a 24 to 26, 26 kind of average. Does that make sense to you? It kind of makes sense to me. But I think that we're going to see, again, last cycle we were supposed to see a 33-month or a 35-month cycle, and I think that we got robbed of that. This cycle, I think we're going to achieve that and more, potentially more, right? 33 months from when the bull cycle started. That puts us in October of this year. And that's when that's actually the time frame that I expect us to top off for Bitcoin is October 2025. Or if not October, 2 months later at the 35 period, right? And that puts us in December. So sometime in Q4, literally the beginning of Q4, the end of Q4, somewhere in that time frame, that's when I think we'll see $500,000. Specifically, if I had to, and I'm not going to go into too much more detail because I don't want to. This video has gone on long enough, but just trust when I tell you I've done enough analysis to know, or to at least have the suspicion that where Bitcoin's going to top off, nobody knows when, right? It could be next month. Maybe it already has topped off. Maybe it tops off in a year from now. I doubt it. All right, I doubt that it goes into 2026. Personally, a lot of people are starting to say that it's going to go into 2026. I don't think so. But if we did some more analysis on this, did a deep dive in it, we would come to the conclusion that October shows up a lot for a lot of different reasons, specifically the end of October. So I think not in the beginning of October, but the end of October. That's whenever Bitcoin will top off at $500,000 or somewhere around there. We don't have to stop at 500 specifically. Maybe it's just below. Maybe it's 560,000. Somewhere in that area, though. That's what I'm anticipating. So I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, hit the like button. Subscribe if you want to see more content like this. Thank you all for being here. And again, it's pretty basic stuff. Oh, you know what? Here's one last thing, okay? One last thing. Whenever I'm analyzing the cycles, right? We look at this on, again, BTC USD all-time history index, right? The monthly RSI. I set my RSI to a 10, but it can be set to a 14 or whatever. I don't care. It don't matter. It's fine. You're going to get the same results. It's just going to be at different readings here, but the chart will look the same. I promise you. Monthly RSI. You'll notice a couple of things. Okay, first and foremost, we've been respecting this line every single cycle. Just not this cycle. Not yet. Each cycle we've had two peaks. Two peaks. Two peaks. One peak here. Where's the second peak? There it is. There's the second peak, but it's a lot lower. You could argue we've got two peaks now, but I don't think so. I don't think so, right? The first peak always interacts with this white line. We've never done anything like this, but this is a very bullish posture to be in, you guys. It's a coiling up to see some deeper readings in the RSI, which we're going to see. Every cycle, every single cycle has interacted with this white line, this trend line. Every single cycle has gone above the 90 on the monthly RSI. Every single cycle. We have not yet this cycle. Not yet. And we're going to. If you notice, we have two peaks. The first peak here to the second peak, that is a 4-month difference in time. This peak here to that peak, that is a 7-month difference. And it alternates 4, 7, 4. Nope, that's 3. Let's get it to the 4. There you go. Right there, 4. And then from this peak to the lesser peak, which again, if we didn't stop here, if we continued to grow, this lesser peak would have probably came up. It would have probably came up more like it had every single time. Again, just the similarities are uncanny. 4, 7, 4, 7. We're due for a 4 cycle or a 4-month differential difference, 4-month difference between the peaks here, right? Once we hit it. So all I'm saying is we don't know exactly when. We're guessing when the cycle will end, right? If I'm thinking it'll be October, 4 months from October would be July, right? Because July is, or that's June. Oh, that's so perfect. June. July, August, September, October. 4 months from then. Perfect. Oh, wow. I didn't even notice that. I've been saying for over a month now, for quite some time, and probably even longer than that, but the timing has been changed. June is when we're going to see the next high relative to our move here, right? We're going to be moving up, and I think we top off in June. That doesn't mean we top off and that's the end of the cycle. I just mean our next high, and I think that high is going to be at 170K. Being at 84K now, I would theorize that moving up to 170K from this current area, all right, like let's just put it in this way. We were at this same area last time that we moved up. What did we do with our last move? We moved up here. We moved up from our low, yes, from our low here to our high. We moved up 120%. From our low here to our high, if it's going to be at 170K, we're going to move up 130%, a little bit more, right? I theorize that this, and when we moved up here, we had a close. We had a close in our RSI, a red month here where it wicked high and then it closed low, so that brought the RSI down. I think we'll get a strong close. We won't have a wicking close. We'll have a strong close, and in June, we are going to reach, if not touch, this line. That's my expectation, okay? If not June, July. 4 months from then, we will get our second tip, our second touch of this line, or if it's not a second touch of the line, we'll get our second peak, because we've seen that it doesn't have to touch the line. We'll get our second peak. That'll be in October, and that will signal the end of the cycle. Beyond the prices, beyond the time frames, beyond all that stuff, I think in a very simple kind of context, again, I told you in the beginning of the video, you'd be able to do this, you'd be able to do the analysis on your own after watching this video, because it's very simple stuff. We're not doing sophisticated stuff at all. It just takes time. If you look at the RSI, first touch point, that tells us we're near the end of the cycle. We have about just over a quarter of a year to a half of a year left of the cycle. and I expect that to happen in June, but time will tell. I've got nothing else for you guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. Hit the like button, subscribe. Thank you all for being here. We're at $84,500 now. Bitcoin's going to go to the freaking moon, man, and I very much do expect that the next target area that we're going to achieve by the end of June will be at about 150 to 170, maybe even $180,000, and we'll see how that goes. But with this in notion, with this, looking at this right here, and the expectations that I have, maybe 170K is actually not as likely of a target as I thought, because again, we started from a similar area back here. We started from a very similar area back here, and all we got from a low. Let's take it from the low close, because it is based off closes to the high close. Let's do it like that, okay? Was this a lower high or a slightly? That was okay. So let's take it to the high close right here. That was a 63% growth. So from the low close here, if we close, we would just have to close a month essentially probably above like 150K. Okay, so never mind. I was going to say 170K isn't as likely because this overall growth from a low to a high is 120%. If this overall growth to 170K is 130%, I would think this means we have to grow more. But that wasn't appropriate. It didn't make sense, and of course it doesn't because we're using the wicks. The RSI doesn't use the wicks. It uses the closing prices. So from the closing low, just to get to 150K, that's a whole 20% larger than what we saw here in the RSI's growth, relatively speaking. So yes, I think that 170K, 180K, closing a month around those areas, even at 150K or higher, will get us up to this area. So I just had to complete that thought because I noticed that and I'm like, that doesn't make sense. Are we really gonna see prices that are higher than 180K by the end of June? We could, that'd be great, but that just sounds crazy to me, man. Anyways, I got nothing else for you guys. Hit the like button, subscribe. I'm done for real this time. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.